What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on a recent podcast I seen, right? And on that podcast was John Stockton. And John Stockton, the topic of LeBron James came up. And John Stockton, this is not the first time that John Stockton has let it be known that he's really not impressed with the road that LeBron James took as far as like getting his championships. And so on this podcast, he made the reference to LeBron James like taking a helicopter. Everybody else climbed the mountain while LeBron James took a helicopter to the top of the mountain. And I agree with John Stockton, right? And John Stockton, in my opinion, is one of the greatest point guards to have ever played the game. At least top 3 point guard, in my opinion, John Stockton is. And then so I started to think like, because this is not John Stockton's first time, talking about, mentioning LeBron James, I gotta think that John Stockton is probably tired of, or at least like disgusted about what LeBron James did. Because if you think about it, John Stockton played his entire career with Karl Malone with the Utah Jazz, right? And they came close to winning championships a couple times, and they grinded it out. John Stockton, like I said, had an excellent career. But then when you have somebody who comes along and cheats the game and take a shortcut and wind up getting 3 or 4 rings, when John Stockton and Karl Malone could have easily, did with what they could have easily did what LeBron James did, right? But they didn't do that. They chose to grind it out and do what they had to do, or do what they could do in their city to try and win a championship. And they had some great teams. They gave Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, for two years in a row, they gave him a heck of a run. Now, they didn't get to go 7, but still, man, one of those, I think the last one almost went 7 games. And Mike got a steal and made a basket to shut that down. But, like for somebody who is an all-time great, to see somebody like LeBron James, like I said, come along and take shortcuts, go to Miami, win 2 rings, then he go back to Cleveland, stack the team and win 2 rings. It really probably is disappointing to John Stockton, Karl Malone, and plenty other guys who did it the right way. They feel like they did it the right way. A lot of the fans who felt like they did it the right way, and if you stay in your hometown for your whole career, like a franchise ball player, you stay in Utah like Karl and John Stockton did. Patrick Ewing stayed in New York, the whole time. Well, I think at the last minute, I think Patrick Ewing wound up going to Seattle, but Patrick Ewing wasn't ring chasing by then. So Patrick, but for the most part, these franchise ball players used to stay at home, and they got it done there. And I have more respect for those guys who stayed in their one city and got it done there, or didn't get it done, even if you fell short. It just made it it was just better, in my opinion. It's better for the game, instead of all the franchise players moving around or trying to team up with each other and win rings. And so to me, it's just better for the game. And I always said that, like, had LeBron James stayed in Cleveland for his entire career, and he only won, and if he only came up with like 1 or 2 rings, to me, that would have been more impressive than the 2 rings that he got in Miami. I think it would have been more impressive than the 1 ring that he got in Los Angeles. And people already don't respect that bubble ring that he got in Los Angeles. So I just think it would have been better for his career. I think he would have had, people, he would be more well respected. Some people don't respect LeBron James because of what he did in Miami. Teaming up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. They would have had more respect for him if he had beat Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade on his way to winning a ring. And so that's why, in my opinion, I just think that John Stockton is like, this guy, man, he was cherry picking and taking shortcuts and things like that. Even Julius Erving, Dr. J, says that he has LeBron James ranked about like number 15 in his all-time greatest. And a lot of people, in my opinion, like push back on that. They was like, whoa, 15? And I can agree with that. He was ranked right behind Scottie Pippen. Right. And I think so, I don't really put LeBron James up there with like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. I don't put him in the class with those kind of guys. Who else? It's now Julius Erving had a lot of people ranked in front of him. I don't even think he better than Karl Malone. It's a lot of people. Julius Erving had a lot of people. I would have a lot of people in front of LeBron James too. He's not in front of Isaiah Thomas, although Isaiah Thomas, that's his guy. Isaiah Thomas, I think LeBron James is the best thing since sliced bread. But yeah, I just named like 7 people right off the top that I think is better than, were better than LeBron. Like I said, Julius Erving had 15. He had LeBron James ranked number 15 all time. And that's not it. I didn't even put in there like Oscar Robbins, going back to like Jerry West, those guys like that. Yeah, that's 9 already. I just think, and for LeBron James to be as talented as he is, and to jump around from team to team, I just think that not only he cheated himself, first of all, because in order to get past some of these guys, you'd have had to push yourself. If you're LeBron James, if you want to be better than Isaiah Thomas, you want to be better than Karl Malone, you want to be better than John Stockton, you got to push yourself. Rather than moving around from team to team and trying to, stack the deck in your favor, you got to push yourself. You got to get better. You got to work on your game. And that's, he worked on staying in shape, but he never worked on his game. Throughout LeBron James's career, he has never been a great jump shooter. Even now, like he's been in the league like 20 years and he's not too much better of a jump shooter than he was when he first came into the league. A little bit better, not a whole lot. Kevin Garnett said that their strategy when Boston played against LeBron James, their strategy was just to let LeBron James shoot jumpers. The same thing when they went up against who was it? The Spurs. Like, make him a jump shooter, get the rebound, and then just do it from there. But no. So if teams have if they had a formula for how to beat you, then it's up to you to get better. If they think that your jumper, you won't be able to win it with the jumper, then work on your jumper. Make sure your jumper is more consistent. Make sure your jumper is better. But he never did that. People always say, well, did he need to surround himself with more, with more shooters? That was the answer. Instead of him learning how to shoot, him learning how to play with his back to the basket And so I can understand, why play like these old school guys like John Stockton and and Julius Erving, I mean, and Dr. J. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not Irvin Johnson, but Dr. J, Julius Erving, like why they kind of really don't give him too much credit or praise because of the way he went about things. Like I said, he cheated the game. John Stockton is not feeling that. And I'm I agree with John Stockton. LeBron James just cheated the game. And he cheated himself, man. He could have, for as much physical talent as LeBron had or has, he could have been like, who knows? If he had worked on his game, like I said, he could possibly have 4 or 5 like legitimate championships. Man, 20 years in the league. You got 20 years in the league and you only have 4 championships. And you want to be considered the GOAT. You want to be up there with somebody who played 15 years and got 6 championships, undefeated. Yeah, and so yeah, man. I think, and once LeBron James retire, it's gonna be open season. It's gonna be open season once he retire, because as long as he is playing, that's where his leverage is at. The leverage is about him being able to put butts in the seats and people wanting to come and see LeBron. And so, but once he retire, it's open season, and you're already starting to see that right now. People going in on LeBron James, veterans like John Stockton, just letting their feelings be known. And the thing about it, if you notice, veterans don't really come out and say anything negative about other veterans. Like you don't hear John Stockton saying anything about Karl Malone. You don't hear Karl Malone coming out and saying anything about Magic Johnson or Kareem or Larry Bird. Like they really, typically they don't do that. So when they do come out and say something, then they really, there's really a issue there. And so I can see why John Stockton is a little bit, he's a little disappointed and peeved at LeBron James for getting rings, and like he could have did the same. I know John Stockton wouldn't have did nothing like that. I can understand his frustration. And so with that being said, man, y'all don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next episode.